Okay, so how's everyone? Are you happy to be here? Can you be a little more enthusiastic? Okay. So we're going to do an experiment. I'm going to ask you the same question. Are you happy to be here? Okay, you haven't let me finish. So I'm going to ask you the same question, but don't answer it till I raise my hand. Agreed? Don't screw it up, okay? So same question, don't answer it till I raise my hand. Are you happy to be here? So my question is a mental event. Your answer is also a mental event. In between is you. That is not a mental event. That is consciousness. That's your soul. That's presence. And if you just keep that as your identity, there's no mental problem. So let's do it again. I'm going to say, are you happy to be here? Just slip into your own presence. Are you happy to be here? There's no depression here. Okay. So identify not with your mind, but the presence in which the mind is an experience. Okay, so the mind, which we call thoughts, is linked to feelings, emotions, desires, memories. It's tortured. So even saying mental health or mental well-being, it's a nice phrase, but it's an oxymoron, because there's no such thing as a healthy mind. Only your spirit is healthy. And if you connect with your spirit, observe your mind, no depression. Okay, so now let's do a meditation. Please close your eyes and observe your breath. And now let the breath settle your mind. If you just put attention in your mind, on your breath, mind will settle. And now move your awareness to your heart, in the middle of your chest, and mentally ask yourself, who am I? Don't try to answer the question, just ask the question. And let any sensation, image, feeling or thought come to you. And when it does, notice it, let it go. Who am I? Now go a little deeper and say, am I the changing body, or am I the awareness, the consciousness in which the body is a changing experience? I'll repeat that. Am I the changing body, or am I the consciousness, awareness in which the body is a changing experience? Go a little deeper. Am I the changing mind? Or am I the consciousness in which the mind is a changing experience? Just stay with that one question. Who am I? Don't worry about the answers. Just allow any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to come to you. Now go to the next question. What do I want? What is my deepest desire? Again, don't try to look for an answer, let it come to you. What do I want? What's my deepest desire? Third question, what is my purpose? Why do I do what I do? What is my purpose? Fourth and final question, what am I grateful for? Notwithstanding all the problems I have or that are there in the world, what am I grateful for? Gratitude will open the door to your spirit, to the generosity of your spirit, abundance. What am I grateful for? Allowing any sensation, any image, any feeling, any thought to come to you. Okay, now let that go and just repeat your first name to yourself. I'm Deepak, I'm John, I'm Mary, whatever. And now tell yourself, that's not who I am, that's my name. So drop your name. And instead of saying I'm John or Mary, just say I am, with no name, no history, nothing attached to it. I am. And now, instead of saying I am, replace that with a mantra. A mantra is an instrument of the mind that takes you beyond the mind. So the mantra for I am, which means I exist, is aham. So mentally repeat that without moving your lips or your tongue. Aham. Just stay with that for a while. And now leave the mantra, drop the mantra, and be aware of your own presence. Be aware of yourself. Awareness. Be aware of being aware. This is who you are. Not the mind, not the body, but presence. Presence is spirit, presence is soul. So rest in your spirit, rest in your presence. Presence is infinite, borderless, formless, imperceivable, inconceivable, but without it, there's no experience either of the body or the mind or the world. So rest in your own being. And now you can relax into your body and open your eyes. Okay, so that's the key to well-being, presence. Let me now invite Arianna Huffington, the great influencer, luminary, and a lifelong friend.
Thank you so much. Wasn't that amazing? Don't you want to have Deepak with you every day, guiding you through a presence meditation? You know, Deepak and I have known each other for 40 years, longer than some of you have been alive.
Correct.
And
we both are getting younger.
And we both are getting younger. It's just that presence thing. And my mother loved him. I love digital Dharma. And I've been blessed to read the new book, Awakening, which is also incredible. So for those keeping count, Deepa has written 96 books, which is 6 times as many as I have written. And I thought 15 books was a lot, but then here is Deepak. So I want to start by asking a question that's been very much on my mind. As we are all talking about Gen AI being more intelligent than we are, I actually consider this a great gift to humanity, because finally it's a forcing mechanism for acknowledging that we are not our intelligence, we are not our minds, we are not our IQ. We are something deeper and more important, as you were saying in the meditation. We are our soul, our spirit, our consciousness. And finally, AI is kind of forcing us to have that conversation. How do you see that?
Yeah, so that's a very good point. Intelligence is not the same thing as consciousness, okay? Let's look at the hierarchy of what we call knowing. First there's information. Actually, before information, there's data. Then there's information. Then there's knowledge. And then there's wisdom. Okay, so AI can give you access to data, information, knowledge, but not to wisdom.
Yes.
Although it can point to the wisdom of the great luminaries. You say, what did Plato think about it? Or what did Socrates think about it, or Aristotle, or Parmenides, or the sages of the Upanishads? So wisdom comes from inner being, and intelligence is an expression of that, a partial expression, because intelligence is the conditioned mind. And what AI is the conditioned human mind, whether it's cultural conditioning or economic conditioning or religious conditioning. In fact, right now, AI is biased because most of the programming, and especially in health research, is only on white males. So when you look at the data, the information you're getting is not about women, you're not getting about other demographics, only white males. So right off the bat, we have a conditioning in AI as well. So, AI is good as research assisted, as something to reflect on, something that you can use to actually spark your own creativity. As AI becomes more robotic, you can delegate simple tasks to it, free yourself up for intuition and insight and creativity.
So one thing that I'm actually excited about AI, I'd love to know what you think, and we are building an AI health coach. And when we onboard somebody onto the coach, we are not just getting their biometric data, their lab data, their medical data, their calendars. We also ask them questions like, is there a piece of poetry that has inspired you? Is there a hymn or a line from spiritual teachings or a piece of music? And then we use that information to nudge them in moments of stress. Because as you have written so often, we all have that place of wisdom, strength, peace, love in us. Most of the time we don't live there. So can AI help nudge us to that place?
Yes, it can do that, but it can even do more, because right now what is happening is that the treatment for mental distress is usually thought of in terms of therapy, which is good, pharmaceuticals in certain cases, which are very helpful. But most of the treatment for depression or anxiety or stress is above the neck, okay? We know now that there's a nerve in our body called the vagus nerve, which is the longest nerve in the body, interacts with the oculomotor nerve, with the facial nerve, with the heart, with the lungs, with the gut, with the sphincters. So every time you move your eyes in a certain direction, do some eye exercises, you stimulate the vagus nerve. Every time you smile, you stimulate the vagus nerve. Every time you smile. There are 43 facial muscles which express over 100 emotions. But smiling is the most healthy emotion. And in Buddhism, there's a technique. You close your eyes and you imagine that your whole body is smiling. Your heart is smiling, your lungs are smiling, your gut is smiling, even your genitalia are smiling, your fingernails are smiling, and it stimulates the vagus nerve. How do we know? We can measure it through heart rate variability. Then if you take a slow deep breath, that'll stimulate the vagus nerve. Put your attention in the heart, think of someone you love, stimulates the vagus nerve. Squeeze your sphincters, do Kegel exercises, or lift up your diaphragm, that stimulates the vagus nerve. The vagus nerve has bilateral traffic, so from the brain to the body, and from the body back to the brain. If you do yoga of any kind, or Tai Chi or Qigong, you stimulate all the 35 or more branches of the vagus nerve. So vagal stimulation is the key, actually, to self-regulation. I met the R&D chief of the #1 pharmaceutical company in the world. I said, we are already using electroceuticals to stimulate the vagus nerve. And we are finding that people's depression is going away, their blood pressure is going down, their heart rate is reversing, inflammation is going down, even cancer remissions are happening. So I said, why don't you teach them yoga? He said, how do we make money? Or why don't you just tell them to smile or do any of these things? But by the way, now there are these devices, I'm looking at one myself, where you can put an earpod which will stimulate the vagus nerve, or you can wear something around your neck, a necklace that will stimulate the vagus nerve. So technology always catches up. But there are many ways to treat mental distress besides pharmaceuticals and therapy.
And what we're recognizing now is that often it takes both things. It takes medicines plus healthier habits. And right now, as we look at some of the data about a spiritual resurgence, about more and more people talking about a spiritual longing that they have, which may or may not be tied to a particular religion or spiritual tradition. So in the age of the machines, how do you see this spiritual evolution?
It's a very interesting time because AI is just the beginning. So you already have VR, right? Virtual reality. Soon MR, mixed reality. Soon XR, extended reality, and then immersive experiences. So what happens is, with these immersive experiences, and you go to Dubai, the Museum of the Future, you can get an immersive experience, and many people are now experimenting with this. In a few years, you will not probably get pharmaceuticals. You'll get an immersive experience for whether it's anorexia or eating disorders or inflammation or heart disease. You go into a room, you're immersed in an immersive experience. You say, how does VR, immersive experience, change my body? Now that's a deeper question because your body is also a virtual reality. Your body is a projection on consciousness. And so true spirituality is not identifying with your body or your mind, but the presence in which the body-mind has an experience. But the immersive experience can actually almost get you there, not quite there, just the edge to it. But once you understand what that is, the religious spiritual experience fundamentally is only three things. Three things. One is to find your identity beyond space and time. The second is the spontaneous emergence of Platonic values, named after Plato, of course, like truth, goodness, beauty, harmony, love, compassion, joy, equanimity. And the third is the loss of the fear of death. So this is the real spiritual experience, which obviously a machine can't give you, but a machine can point the way and give you an immersive experience so you get there. Just like people these days use ayahuasca or sometimes selectively psychedelics. AI will replace all that. VR will replace all that. You won't need to take a drug to do that.
And that will basically remind us that we have that reality in us. I always want to stress that because for me that's the ultimate recognition of who we are.
That is it. What is reality? Reality is nothing conceptual or perceptual. So if you can conceive it, perceive it like this or this is perceivable. If you can think about it, it's not real. What is real is the inconceivable, imperceivable presence, which is infinite, in which the conceivable and perceivable recycles and evolves as a person.
And I wrote a piece recently about a book that came out in 2011 by David Eagleman, a Stanford neuroscientist, about the subsequent dethronings of the human ego and the human intelligence as the center of everything. So he had, first of all, we had Galileo telling us, that the Earth revolves around the sun, so it's not central. Then we had Freud and Jung talking about the power of the subconscious, so our consciousness is not paramount. Then we had quantum physics. That may seem very solid, but it's not, it's energy. And I would love to know what you think, that AI, being more intelligent than we are, is the ultimate dethronement. Because we can no longer see ourselves as defined by our IQ. I mean, you had Descartes saying, I think, therefore I am, which turns out to be absolutely not true. That's not who we are. And yet, since the Enlightenment and the Industrial Revolution, we have acted as though we are defined by our minds.
See, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am. It's the other way around. I am, therefore I think. So right off there, we see a little difference. Now, current science, by the way, tells us, and this is mind-boggling, that there are 1 trillion planets in the Milky Way galaxy. That there are 60, according to the James Webb Telescope, 60 billion habitable planets in the Milky Way galaxy. Habitable means like us, with the proper biosphere, gravitation, electromagnetic fields, and temperature and all that. 60 billion in the Milky Way galaxy. 2 trillion galaxies. There are trillions of planets, trillions, beyond anything you can think. So as persons, we are not even a microbe in a petri dish. Okay? Not even a microbe in a petri dish, not knowing that the petri dish is in a lab, the lab is in a facility, which is in a city, in a town, and 2 trillion galaxies. So as persons, we are nothing. But as awareness, we are everything.
Yes.
You see, as awareness, we are everything, because even to speak these words, I need awareness. And AI is a large language model. This is very important to understand. Humans are different from other species because we have narrative language. We can now have this conversation. All other animals have language only for mating calls, danger calls, and food calls. That's how we survive. But we created a language for telling stories. That was the first language model. Then we created money, which is another language. Wall Street, another language. Nation states, another language. We didn't stop there. Biology, another language. Physics, another language. Mathematics, philosophy, religion. Put them all together, you have a large language model called AI. So AI is not something created by human beings. AI is the evolution of the cosmos which expresses and knows itself through language. And this is part, in Greece, you have Athena. She's the custodian, Athens named after her, of language, of culture, of
wisdom.
music, of art, of wisdom. She symbolically represents, and now we have AI to tap into that myth.
You mentioned the exploration of the outer cosmos. And, of course, there's an obsession about that, especially among tech bros. But I personally am much more interested in exploring inner space. How can we just get people more excited, or at least as excited, about exploring the mysteries of our inner space, which are kind of unfathomable? And yet we're like obsessed with going to Mars, which, as you're alluding, could be one of billions of planets out there. And kind of missing out on this inner exploration.
So here's the mind-boggling answer to this. I was at a conference with some MIT physicists long time ago, and there was a Russian cosmologist there and mathematician. Everybody was talking about the outer cosmos and the universe, what's it made of, and he said there's no universe. It's a human construct for what's happening inside us. So there is only the inner cosmos, and what we call the physical cosmos, including Mars. Mars is a name for a particular type combination of human sensations, perceptions, and thoughts, and feelings, and images. There's no Mars, just like there's no universe. It's a human construct for human experiences. What does Mars look like to an insect with 100 eyes, or to a honeybee that navigates through ultraviolet, or a bat that hears the echo of ultrasound? So this whole idea that there is a universe is now being called naive realism. Naive means, it's not a condescending term. Naive means the picture of the world is the look of it. But it's only the human look of it that we call the objective world. There is no objective world. It's a species-specific perceptual activity in the inner cosmos. And the inner cosmos is even more infinite than the outer cosmos.
And is that inner cosmos what you call cosmic consciousness?
That inner is consciousness. It's the superposition of infinite possibilities. It's not your mind, okay? Your mind is a modified form of consciousness. And how is it modified? Through conditioning, cultural conditioning, religious conditioning, scientific conditioning, philosophical conditioning. But you go behind that, there is only infinite possibilities, infinite creativity, infinite ideas. And by the way, human language is capable of generating infinite ideas. This is something very interesting about only human language. That's why we didn't create, it evolved. The AI as a large language model just evolved, just like the same way as Uber evolved. For you to get Uber, you had to have satellites in space. You had to have this technology. You had to have iPhones. It was the coming together, a confluence of infinite technologies and ideas, and now you take it for granted. See, I'm so surprised that we are not bamboozled that we exist. It's such an extraordinary thing. We exist and we know we exist. You walk around New York City, how many people are wondering or surprised or bewildered that they exist? If you were bewildered by that you exist, you would never be depressed. Never be depressed. Bewilderment is the most holy of experiences. Why is there something instead of nothing?
Okay, so when we live here, we are all going to be bewildered that we exist. Maybe
there's a poem of Rumi, exchange your cleverness for bewilderment.
I love that. My favorite Rumi quote is, live life as though everything is rigged in your favor.
That's it.
But let me ask you, do you think, for those who want everything quantified, do you think AI can help us measure consciousness?
No, it cannot help us measure consciousness. It can help us measure experiences. So consciousness is not an experience. It's the basis of all experience. So I wear a lot of these things, as you know.
You wear an Oura ring?
And something called Ultra Human and the Apple Watch. And I find that they're all unreliable because they all disagree with each other except for the number of steps. They disagree with each other.
I totally agree. They just get it wrong so often, right?
Yeah. But they're getting better. So I think ultimately mental well-being and distress is obviously measurable through heart rate variability, through cortisol levels, adrenaline levels, all kinds of hormone things, and these days also through looking deeper at things like genetic activity, neural landscapes, but obviously consciousness, being infinite, is not measurable. The infinite is not measurable.
So you know what I think is interesting? Of course, we are all obsessed and fascinated by AI. But I think the most important thing about AI is helping us understand ourselves.
Absolutely.
So here's how I say it. You know, in 1968, William Anders was, the first man, one of the first 4 humans to orbit the moon. And when he came back, he said something which I think is kind of equivalent to where we are now. He said, we came all this way to explore the moon. And the most important thing that we discovered is the Earth. So right now, I feel we're at this inflection moment when we are fascinated by AI, but it's helping us do exactly what you're saying, discover that we are way beyond the IQ and the intelligence and the body and the mind and all the things that we have for centuries identified ourselves with. So does that make you optimistic? Does it make you excited that you and I are still alive at this moment?
It does. We're in the midst of a cultural, social, and biological leapfrogging in our evolution. So between the ages of 1887 and 1903, which is less than 20 years, humans came up with the light bulb, the automobile, the airplane, and the telephone. Less than 20 years. So let's pretend you were shipwrecked in 1885 and you returned to New York 20 years later. You would still see horses and carriages, but now you'd also see automobiles. You'd see people experimenting with telephones and speaking to each other. That was you wouldn't recognize the world in 20 years. But now we are in the midst of not only a leapfrogging in our cultural and social evolution, in our biological evolution, because as our experience expands, our genetics, epigenetic activity changes, our neural changes, landscape changes. I think we are evolving into a new species. I choose to call that meta-human, beyond human, not cyber-human, which is a more technological term, but meta literally means a new reality of ourselves and of the cosmos, because we'll be a new species. But that's the good side. You asked optimism. The dark side is the same technology can cause a nuclear plant to leak, can interfere with electricity in a city, can maneuver drones, it's happening right now, and it can cause extinction. So this is a very important time in our history as a species. One road leads to extinction, the other leads to a new universe. Even Homer never dreamed of that universe that we could have. It's beyond anybody's imagination, Homer or the sages of the Upanishads.
But not beyond what Christ or Buddha or the big spiritual leaders. I mean, Christ said, all that I do, you too can do, and even greater. I mean, for me, that's meta-human.
Those are the real avatars.
Yeah.
Which...
But what the real avatars told us is that it's in us. We have that opportunity in us. So I would say it's not meta-human, it's fully human.
It's fully
like
human, yeah, fully the awakened human,
it's
if you want.
the awakened human is basically the fulfillment of our destiny. It's the fulfillment of how we're created, that all avatars told us. I mean, because as you have said in one of your 96 books, I don't remember which, you know, we have been living with a tiny percentage of our consciousness. So basically, we are now expanding that.
We are expanding. Just remember one thing. Any experience that you have, this, without consciousness, you cannot have it, right? You cannot have any experience, either of your mind or the body or the universe. And that consciousness is infinite. And if it's infinite, the only thing you can say it's divine, right?
Yes.
Infinite, divinity go together. So without the divine, there's no experience of this, or anything. The infinite is present in every finite experience. If we totally bring presence to every experience, then God is not difficult to find. God is impossible to avoid.
I love that. So I've been told I have to finish exactly on time. So
which doesn't exist.
Which so did you hear that? Time doesn't exist. So if I break the rules, I have been absolved by Dr. Chopra. But one of my favorite lines from your new book, Awakening, is that our state of awareness determines in huge measure how our life will turn out and how our everyday existence is proceeding from here on. So before we go, just some practical advice. What's one thing we can all do today to live a more awakened life?
One thing, stop once in a while until it becomes a habit. You don't even have to stop. Ask yourself, am I here? Am I present? That's the only thing you need to remember. And even asking the question will bring you to the present. And then it's a habit. You don't have to think about it or ask the question. When you bring presence to every experience, it becomes beautiful. You know, in India, there's a phrase, sutra, it says, Satyam Shivam Sundaram. Satyam means existence and truth. Shivam means presence. Sundaram means beauty and love. So they go together. Beauty, love. When you look at an object with presence, it appears very beautiful. When you look at a person with presence, we call it love. And that's why I love you.
That's why I love you. Thank you for being in our lives. Thank you for all the blessings you have brought. So grateful to you. And let's go out and be both present and bewildered.
Yes. That's all we need.